Welcome and welcome back, everybody. Tabletop Toki here, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my board game plays from February 2024. It was a pretty busy month. I got to play 104 different games, 142 plays total, and I got to play 25 games that I'd never played before. Sizable chunk of the base game collection played with 12% here, and you can see there was a lot of activity in the middle of the month, mostly in part to a local convention I went to. To kick things off, one of my most played games and one of the new games that I got to try this month was First in Flight from Genius Games. Now, I won't get too much into it because I do intend to make a full solo party video for this game, but it is a push your luck deck building game where you are striving to become a pioneer in the aviation industry by creating your first ever plane, which is represented by your deck. Like I said, more on that soon. I also had a first play of Arboria. This is a quasi worker placement resource management game with some tile laying. The art is gorgeous, but due to the nature of the worker placement element where you are going to be putting workers on track, and each time any player moves one of those public tracks, every single player that's on it has the chance to jump off. It really did kind of weigh the game down in terms of the pacing of the game. I'm not sure that I really love this one, especially at 4 players. I think it would be a great solo puzzle, but it was just a very long slog, unfortunately. I did get to play Kutnohora again, but another new game I got to play and played many times is EOITO. EOITO is the Japanese word for thread and connection. In this game, you are going to be getting a number card and a prompt. So for example, something you would be excited to find in your pockets, ranging from 0 to 100. And based on your number, you're going to play it face down and cooperatively try to decide which numbers go in which order. Well, how are you going to do that? By answering the prompt with an answer that fits the number. So if your number is like a 90, you might want to find a winning lottery ticket in your pocket, right? That would be one of those best things to find. So everybody gives a clue, and then you're going to debate about which cards you think might go in which spots, and then you go for the big reveal. And oh my goodness, is the reveal big. We had a game where we played with 9 players and every single card flip was just nail biting. And when we finally won, I'm pretty sure they heard us from blocks away because it was a huge celebratory moment. So this is a definite one you need to check out. I'll absolutely be talking about it more on the channel. I also had a first play of Apiary from Stonemaier Games. This is a worker placement game with workers that kind of power up and age, which are your space bees. And while I do love games with unique mechanics like that, with different strengths of workers that age, Teotihuacan comes to mind as like a prime example. This one kind of missed the mark for me. It felt very open, and at least in a 3-player game, the timing of things felt a little bit awkward. Now, with more plays, that might change, but that was my first impression of it by and large. We had some other favorites played with Adrenaline and It's a Wonderful World. I also got to try Dutch Blitz at the convention, which is just a quick speed game with some solitaire kind of rules in playing cards from your pile into the sections in front of you. While it was pretty fun, it did feel a little random at times, and again, that might be a skill-based thing, but overall it was super fun. I also got to play Carl Chudik's game Aegean Sea. This is similar to Motenai, one of my personal favorites from the same designer, using multi-use cards. However, this game, especially with the player powers, felt very random. So you would go to build up an engine, pool resources, get ships, and then there might be an event or a card that would just obliterate them based on a card flip. So this one wasn't my favorite, and I definitely prefer Motenai between the two. I also got to play the Red Dragon Inn. Although I've played this before, this was my first time playing this particular edition. I believe it was the 8th game in the series. If you know me, I don't like randomness in games, and take that elements aren't my favorite. So this one wasn't super high on my list, but I can see how it would be a fun game. Durian, however, was excellent. This is a small box games from Aanc. In Durian, everybody has a card with some fruit on it that depicts how much fruit collectively is in the warehouse, but you're not allowed to see your own card. Players are taking orders and placing them for which orders they're going to accept, which they're going to deny, until somebody says, hey, wait a minute, we have too many orders. There's no way we can fill these. And they get to ring this tiny little bell to call the manager. It's a really fun bluffing game with some push your luck elements. This one has just been a blast. I'm sure it's going to hit the table several even more than 3 times this next coming month. We have Rajas of Gandhi's The Magnificent, Paint the Roses, Railroading, some great bangers. I also got to play Fantasy Form. In fact, there's a video up on the channel for it, and the Kickstarter is coming very, very soon, March 12th, I believe. This is a readaptation of Spaceship with a brand new fantasy theme. Thank you. Again, like I said, it was fantastic. If you want to see more of it, you can check out my solo party video that's up on the channel for it. And moving right along, a new game was Hair of the Dog. Man, this one was a stinker. I don't know what to tell you. The art was very cute, but there were some themes in here that were, like pretty risky. It's about going to a dog cafe, but you can trade information. And a weird mechanic that doesn't fit at all unless they were really going for something pretty unacceptable was that if somebody refuses to trade with you, you can pour out some of your drink, I don't know, like making them drink, and then coerce them into giving you information that they didn't consent to. It was really weird. I don't know. We tried it at the convention, and needless to say, it was not my favorite mechanically, nor the implication of some of the game mechanics. Docas was another new game I got to try. This is an interesting tile laying route building game where you're going to be shifting tiles and making patterns to connect to different temples and get points based on where your actual pieces lie. It was very quick and very fun, definitely a lot lighter than I would have imagined based on the box. And speaking of light, we have Godsforge. This game is gorgeous, but there's not a lot in the box. I hadn't played it before because upon looking into it, I thought, wow, this is awesome. This sounds really fun. And then picking up the box, it feels like it's just full of air, which is disappointing. But the game itself was pretty fun, and there are 2 expansions I know that are out for it, so I don't know how those change the game and beef it up. But if I was to get into this one more, I would definitely want a little more content for it. Toil and Troubles is from Grandpa Beck's Games. This is a push your luck set collection game, and it was super fun. You're working on this central forest where you're placing cards on either end, but you can't have cards of matching colors, and the numbers have to get higher as you go. There's a push your luck element with how many cards you put up and what row you want to take to make sets. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm definitely going to be looking for a copy here soon. Gap was another surprise sleeper from the convention. This is a set collection game where you're going to be playing out cards, and if they match certain cards in the center, you're going to put them into your pool. However, you don't want to have too many points. It's kind of like Colorado, where your highest group will score, but your lowest group will count as negative. I really like this take on that mechanic. It was a little bit chaotic with a higher player count, but I would love to see how this plays at 2 or 3 players. I think it would be really spectacular. Mysterium Park was another game that I finally got to try. I have played Mysterium, but Mysterium Park really kind of boils things down. It takes out all the fiddly things that I had pointed out about regular Mysterium in one of my burn videos and distills it down. My main criticism of Park was that a lot of the cards were extremely similar to one another. When you're giving clues to point to a certain direction, of course, you don't want it to be too easy, but being that it had this park theme, all of the cards kind of shared that common theme and common traits, especially some of the cards were almost felt identical, so it was hard to delineate between them when giving clues. Moving right along, we had a lot of other favorites played. I also got to try Palm Laboratory, which just came in. This is building off the Palm game system of Palm Island, which you may be familiar with. Palm Laboratory changes it up quite a bit. You can actually reorder the cards because you'll look at the first 2 instead of just the first card, which I thought was brilliant in terms of increasing the replayability and amount of choice that players had on their actions. I'm going to play this one a few times more and hopefully be making a solo party video on it soon. Of the Mysterium universe, Mysterium Kids is an absolute banger. Literally. The game comes with a little hand drum, and instead of giving clues based on cards like you do in Mysterium or Mysterium Park, you have to signal in all the other players with their eyes closed by making sounds using the drum. What a genius, fun mechanic. I mean, I'm sure it's great for kids, but we as adults had a freaking blast playing this, and I'm super glad that this was the game that I ended up winning out of the play to win, because it was definitely one of the ones I had the most fun playing. Now, as far as replayability goes for adults, I don't know, but I thought it was great. It seems very gimmicky, but it actually works really well, and there were some tense decisions in there. It wasn't just as easy as you might think it would be. We had a lot of other plays. Silver Coin was one that I've been recommended over and over again, especially because of how much I love Cabo. So at this point, I've played Cabo, which is the main game where you have cards in front of you and you're trying to get the lowest value by matching cards and using special abilities. I've played Loch Lomond, I've played Stool Pigeon, and now I've played Silver Coin. I've heard that Silver Coin is like one of the best of the best, but I have to say I still just prefer regular Cabo. It is the most streamlined. It has enough variety with the shoot the moon mechanic, with the kamikaze 12s and 13s, as well as the getting 100 points and having it down. Silver Coin had some card text and things you could do when you reveal cards, but the timing felt really awkward compared to a streamlined game like Cabo. I can see how people like this game because the Cabo mechanism or the Cabo base that's in it is solid. Tell me if I'm crazy here, but base game Cabo, by and large for me, is just, it hasn't been beaten yet. We had some more plays of Spicy, Too Many Cinderellas, Stackosaurus, all these great ones. Martian Chess was a 2-player abstract game that really kind of turned the idea of chess on its head, because as you move your piece across that middle line to capture your opponent's pieces, that piece belongs to your opponent now. So you can only control pieces on your side of the board. And in order to capture, like I said, you have to move them across and give a piece to your opponent. You can also combine pieces of value 1 and 2 to make a 3, or 1 and 1 to make a level 2 piece, which gives them different movements. Although this was a really cool idea, I'm not sure as much about the replayability of this one. After the first game, it kind of felt cracked. I would like to play this one again just to see if that holds true. Inside Job is a trick-taking game with a hidden role aspect. While it was pretty interesting, I feel I would get bored of this game really quickly. Very similar to the Crew. You play a lot of hands back to back, and the missions from round to round aren't that vastly different, but I did appreciate that they added an element of the hidden role in there. Again, I don't think for replayability it would really hold my attention. Dive was a really gorgeous presentation game. You have these transparent overlays and you're programming your divers to go down to different depths, anticipating whether there will be danger with sharks, and assigning priority based on the value of the bubbles you play for grabbing some of the valuable resources on the sheets themselves. I really thought this would be gimmicky and it would be solved after one play, because once you get an idea of how those transparent sheets lie, you pretty much can tell which levels have sharks and which levels are the best. But what I didn't anticipate is that the programming aspect would then become so strong. Not only do you have bubbles 1 through 5, but you can actually stack bubbles. So if you think, man, this is a great level to get points, I think people are gonna play a 5. I'm gonna put 3 of my bubbles on there and make sure I get it so I have value 11, for example. There were some really cool mechanics with that. I'm not sure it's one that I need in my collection, but I'm glad to see that it has more replayability than I initially thought after hearing about it. Speedy Fey was a speed game, just a little quick card game. It was a little bit too chaotic and messy with how the rule resolution worked, with slapping down cards based on the number of food items out to feed certain animals, but it was a fun one and I'm glad I got to try it. Bamboo Bash was also a really fun light game, a dexterity game where you have a big tower of bamboo and a little panda hand that you're trying to smack the bamboo off without knocking over the chutes where the baby panda on top. This one was a blast. We even ended up playing it 2 times. I believe it's probably based off Click Clack Lumberjack from what I've seen. Wonderwoods is a newer acquisition of mine from Noble Knight Games, the sponsor of this channel. I was able to get a used copy. This is one that had been on my radar, so I was super excited that they had it. You should absolutely check out their selection of new and used games for sale, because my gosh, there are some real gems on there. Wonderwoods is a game where you're going to be going out and delegating baskets to pick various types of mushrooms, but you don't know how much they're worth. You can ante up information from your hand to get more baskets, but then that kind of clues everybody else into deducing which mushrooms might be worth the most points. Super fun, streamlined game, just very quick deduction and set collection that I really enjoyed. So overall, like I said, this was a super busy month. I really enjoyed a lot of the games that I got to play. There were some on here that weren't necessarily my favorite, but hey, super glad that I got to try them out. Let me know in the comments down below what you've been playing lately and what you're looking forward to playing this month. Also, quick announcement, starting next month, these monthly updates will be streamed live as long as everything goes right. I think I finally got it set up, not quite in time for this video, but definitely in the future. Keep an eye out for that. If you would like to see more, make sure you subscribe down below so you don't miss that, and click the bell for notifications. That way you get notified when I do make a new video or when I go live for videos like this. Thanks so much as always for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.